So welcome everybody. This is the Cloud and Virtualization 101 webinar. My name is Yury Magalif. I'm a principal architect for cloud computing at CDI, Computer Design and Integration, which is a company that's headquartered in New Jersey, but we have offices on the East Coast. And it's also co-hosted by Virginia International University, which is an institution of higher education out of Virginia. And this was in response to some Virginia University students and also some clients of CDI who are new to cloud and virtualization, asking what these new concepts are and what they mean and what we can do with them. So the agenda is we're going to go over who is behind this webinar, then talk about what is the cloud, then about the types of clouds, then talk about what is virtualization, and then the types of virtualization, then why do mobile devices need the cloud? Mobile devices like iPads, iPhones, why do they need the cloud? And finally, we're going to end on how to get a cloud and virtualization job, and also how to virtualize and make the cloud yourself. So this session is, again, co-hosted by Virginia International University, where you can obtain your Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and also Master of Science in various information technology fields, and also by the IT Club of Virginia International University. It is also co-hosted by CDI. CDI, again, is out of New Jersey with offices in New York City, Charlotte, Atlanta, and Boston. We are a $200 million company by revenue, 200 employees, 500 clients. We started in 1995 in a garage, and at this point, we've graduated to a $200 million company. So as you can see in the IT world, things can grow pretty quickly. So what is the cloud? And is it the internet? So when we talk about, let me go and use Google. Let me go and use Facebook, okay? What is it that you're using? Where are you connecting to? Where is it located? What does it mean? Okay? We would need to find out. So if you think about it, these services like Google and Facebook and Netflix and Amazon and Apple iTunes, they live somewhere out there. Okay? You can connect to these services from your mobile device right here on the left, the mobile phone. You can connect to them from your laptop. You can connect to them from your computer. Okay? You can connect to them from other computers and from server computers. You can pretty much connect to them from anywhere, and yet all your data is out there. It's stored. You don't lose it, and it's always accessible to you. So using the cloud is very convenient on one hand, but on the other hand, when you use the cloud, your data lives somewhere out there, and you don't quite have full control of it. You do, but whoever is giving you the cloud, Facebook or Google, they store your data, and they're responsible for making sure that your data does not get lost. So the cloud is this big entity out there, okay, and I will show you in a moment what it looks like. These big data centers out there, and they have the computers, and these computers do the processing. So that's where the brains are. That's where the memory is. You, as a user of the cloud, only see the face, Okay, your face on your phone, the face on your laptop, on a server, but the actual thinking happens out there in these big data centers. And that's what the cloud is. It's very convenient, but you give up ownership of some data to this big cloud provider. And nowadays, when we talk about the internet, a lot of it is that cloud concept. The internet becomes this cloud concept. So a lot of times when you hear the internet and the cloud, it is the same thing, but not all the time. So what does the cloud look like? So here's a picture of Google's Oklahoma data center. It's in the middle of farmland. And you can see everything is green except this large white building in the middle of farmland. And that's where Google stores a lot of your data. If you use Google Gmail, Google Drive, that's where the data is located. Okay? And providers like Google or Amazon, they have this data spread out in many data centers. This is not just one. They have them all over the world. They have one in Finland, for example, right next to the ocean. Okay, they have one in California. So that your data is always available no matter where you go, and it's always copied everywhere, so you don't lose anything. So what's inside this cloud brain, this data center? This is a picture of the inside of that cloud, okay? Inside that white building is basically racks and racks and shelves of computer servers, which are like powerful computers. And they do the processing for you, all your Gmail and all your Google Drive documents and all your Amazon things and Netflix movies and Facebook pictures, all of them are stored here. So for example, when I look in here, there's a lot of these computers here. I can't really pinpoint where your document is stored because it's all spread out all across these computers and all over the other computers in the world that Google has. But this is what it looks like, and you can see a technician, engineer here in the middle actually servicing one of these powerful computers. So what are the types of clouds that we have? So first, we have a public cloud. So what is a public cloud? A public cloud is the services that I already described. These really, really large companies like Google Apps here on the right, like Amazon, like Microsoft, that built these enormous data centers all over the world, and they allow you to buy a subscription and connect to their service, and you can use their service. So, for example, if you want to use Microsoft Office online, you buy a subscription for Microsoft, and you can use it online. So why are they called the public cloud? Because they're very large, and there's enormous financial resources in them, and enormous infrastructure. So very few companies can attempt to do these kinds of data centers and build them and maintain them. So the largest ones, we call them the public cloud, because there's so many of them, and you can just sign up with one of them and use their resources, okay? And that's why they're called the public cloud. Now you can see an example of that is actually Virginia International University actually uses the public cloud, because here's at the bottom, here's a login for Virginia International University to the campus email, and as you can see, VIU uses the Google Cloud. So when you use your email at Virginia International University, you're actually connecting to the Google Apps Cloud, and your data is stored on one of those servers that I showed you earlier. The next type of cloud is a private cloud. So what's a private cloud? Well, a private cloud is, okay, there's some companies out there, for example, like CDI, that say, Well, I want to allow my employees access to email, but I want to store all the email myself. Okay, I don't want to give it to Amazon or give it to Google or give it to Microsoft. I want to store the email myself. So we at CDI, we bought some of these servers, not as many as Amazon, but we bought a number of them, and they are in our building in Teterboro, New Jersey. And we make email available to our employees. So our employees can go anywhere, anywhere in the world. We have clients in Singapore and London. So if our employee goes to Singapore, he can get on any computer and still access his email. But that email is actually located in this building here in Teterboro, New Jersey, okay, that you see here. So what that means is that we built our own infrastructure, our own cloud, and it's called private because it's only for our employees, okay? And here's, for example, what it looks like in our data center. You see that there's pictures of racks here with some servers, which are the powerful computers in them. We have a number of them, but of course, we don't have as many as you saw in that picture that Google has, okay? We just have a few racks of them for our own needs. And that's why it's called the private cloud. It's much smaller, and it's only for our employees. And here on the right, you will see the login into our email, which is really located on these servers that you see here. Okay, and that email is there. It's not in Google, it's not on Amazon, it's our own private cloud, just for us. And that's what a private cloud is. The next type of cloud is called the hybrid cloud. So the hybrid cloud is kind of a combination of the public cloud that I talked about earlier, like Microsoft, Google, and the servers at your own company or your own university. When you put those two together, you can have some of your information stored locally on your own servers, and some information you can store at Microsoft and Amazon and Google. And when you do that, you have a hybrid cloud. So for example, if you want to store email on your own machines, okay, in your data center, like we do at CDI, but yet you want to back it up in case something happens, Hurricane Sandy happens and everything is flooded, you want to make sure that there's a copy of this data in a different location, maybe in California. You can actually go and build a data center yourself in California, but that would be really expensive. So instead, you go to a public cloud provider like Microsoft or Google, and you say, look, I have some files here, my Word and email. Can you back it up for me? And Microsoft or Google says, sure, no problem. You set it up, and now, yes, your email is stored on your own servers, your own private cloud, but when you back it up, a copy of it gets sent over to Microsoft servers over in California, okay? And now you have a copy. So in case Sandy happens and your building gets flooded, you still have a copy of your data available over at Microsoft servers in California, and you can recover it. So when you have this arrangement where you use some services on your own machines and some services you use in the public cloud, the Microsoft and Google, it's called the hybrid cloud, and it's a very popular option nowadays because not everybody wants to give their data away completely to these big cloud providers, okay? Because there's issues of security and there's issues of ownership, okay? How, Microsoft can let you remove your data from their cloud, but, they can put some hurdles in it so you don't move away from their cloud. Then when you hear about the cloud, you hear these terms, SaaS, SaaS, PaaS, PaaS, IaaS. And you're going to hear a lot more terms. These three are just the most popular, right? And everything ends in AAS, AAS. So what is that AAS when you hear about the cloud? AAS means as a service, as a service. So, for example, let's take the top here, the green row here, the SaaS. SaaS is software as a service. Okay? So, software as a service is exactly what I described before. It's Microsoft Office in the cloud, right? Or the service called Dropbox, where you can store your files in the cloud, or Google. All these things that you see are software as a service. Why is it software as a service? Well, because remember when Microsoft Office, you can still buy it separately and install it on your computer. You can go to the store, physically buy a copy, bring it over, and install it on your computer. And that's software, that's Microsoft Office software, and it's yours. You install it on your computer. Well, now, if you sign up with Microsoft Office 365 Cloud, you can use this Office through the website, and you don't have to buy the software, but you have to pay a subscription fee to Microsoft to use this service. So it becomes a service with a subscription fee that you pay every month. And as long as you pay the fee, you can use Microsoft Office. And also remember, if you use the cloud, you need access to the internet. So when you had Office on your machine, you could have disconnected from the internet and you would have been fine. But when you use the cloud, you have to be connected to the internet because remember, Office will now reside on Microsoft servers somewhere out there in maybe Seattle, okay, Washington. And that is software as a service. The software you used to use on your computer is now in the cloud, and you pay a subscription fee to access it. Another popular concept is platform as a service, and that is harder to understand for regular people because platform as a service is basically allowing programmers or application developers who make and program the software to have some of that programming functionality already built for them out in the cloud. Okay, so the programmer or developer, and some of you at Virginia International University who are studying for a degree are studying to be a developer or a programmer in computer science. So when you make a program, normally you make it and you have to make it yourself. Well, if you use PaaS or platform as a service, some of that work is already done for you and it's in the cloud. So all you have to do is you have to do a little bit of work, and then you use the same Amazon cloud, and now you can build your own program much easier, and it lives in the cloud. So it's accessible from anywhere. So that's what platform as a service is. Finally, infrastructure as a service, and that is IaaS. And what that is remember how I showed you all that infrastructure, all these servers and data centers and in Oklahoma and Seattle and India and everywhere. All that's considered infrastructure, or all these computers connecting to each other. If you build a private cloud, like I said we have at CDI, you have to buy this hardware yourself, these servers yourself. You have to spend money. You have to put them in a building like we have at Teterboro in New Jersey, and you have to maintain it. So you spend money on buying these things and maintaining them. But if you sign up, for example, with a cloud provider like Amazon, they can let you use their hardware, okay, use their servers, and you, as a network architect, which is another one of the jobs that studying at Virginia International University, you may be going for as an architect or as an engineer, you may want to use that existing infrastructure, not build your own, but just pay Amazon a subscription fee per month, and you can use their infrastructure, and then you can build things on top of it, okay? So all of these services are subscription-based services. And besides these letters, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, there's pretty much everything exists as a service nowadays if you want to buy it as a service. So there's desktop as a service, there's backup as a service, okay? There's application as a service. So there's a lot more IaaS acronyms out there, but these three are the most popular. So we talked about the cloud, okay? And it's a great concept, and it makes computing easier, but what makes the cloud possible? Why is it that we didn't have this cloud concept before the way it exists now? We always had it to a degree. Even in the 80s we had it to a degree, even in the 70s, okay, with the big mainframe computers. But only now the cloud concept is easily accessible, and you could sign up for it really easily online and pay a subscription fee and use the cloud. Okay? Why did it suddenly become so easy to use and accessible? It did so because of virtualization. So what is virtualization? Well, look at a picture here, and here's a big house, big mansion with many, many, many rooms. And imagine Donald Trump, which is our favorite billionaire here, our favorite rich guy here in the United States. And let's say Donald Trump bought this huge mansion, this house, and he lives in it by himself. So there's 20 rooms in it, but he only uses one room. So he is wasting the space that he bought because nobody lives in the other rooms, okay? And this wasting of space has started happening in the computer industry because there's something called Moore's Law, okay? And Moore's Law is this concept established by Gordon Moore, and he said that the speed of computing doubles, okay, every 18 months. So what happens is computers get faster and faster and faster, and this law is still happening. Computers keep getting faster and faster and faster, and yet the applications that you build on computers can't fully use all of this power. So, for example, when you buy a personal computer for your house, or you buy a laptop, it has so much processing power that you don't use. Let's say you just use it to browse the internet and access Word documents. Okay, that's just 5% of what a computer can do. So you're using, and this is the industry average, you're using about 5% of your processor, of your brain, of the computer. And the rest, 95%, is totally wasted, okay? Not being used for anything. So you put all this money in the computer, and yet you're only using 5% of its brains. So that's a waste. And so if you think about this mansion, it's just like this mansion. Donald Trump buys this mansion, he lives in it by himself, and the rest of the rooms go unused. Okay? And that's been happening for a while in the industry, computer industry. But then this concept of virtualization was invented. It was invented a long time ago, but it was started to be popularized. So what is virtualization? Well, virtualization is if you take Donald Trump and you say, hey, Donald, do you want to make some money? More money than you already have. And he says, yes, of course I want to make some more money. I'd take any cent that I can find. And he will go and he will ask a lot of people to rent rooms in his mansion. So now we have a lot of these people, and they all live in this mansion. So now every room in the mansion is filled with a person. So The house is full. It's fully being utilized. No rooms, no space is being wasted. Okay. So if you apply this to the computer concept, what if we take a lot of these computers and we virtualize them, and I'll talk about how to do that in a moment, and make them all live on this one computer so that you're not wasting 95% of processing of the computer, or the brains of the computer, but you're using the processing of the computer to its full potential, which is, 80% at least, okay? Which is a good number. If you can use a computer up to 80%, that's good, all right? So how would you do that? Well, you got to get these people to rent your house or your computer and live there, and this is how it applies to computers. So you can see on the right here we have a box, computer box. Let's say this is a big computer server, okay? It's a physical computer server. And that's just like that mansion, that house. And now we want to utilize it more. So we take other computers and we virtualize them. So what does that mean to virtualize? Well, normally a computer is a piece of hardware, right? You can touch it, okay? You can push the power button. But there's technology out there to make the computer virtual, which means that the computer is no longer hardware, but it now becomes software, which is just like a program, okay? So when you start up, say, your Windows or your Macintosh operating system, it thinks it lives on a physical hardware, but in reality it does not, okay? So this special software, virtualization software, fools the operating system like Windows or Macintosh OS into thinking that it lives on hardware, but in reality it's a program that covers it from the outside. So think about the Matrix movies. If you've seen the Matrix movie, you have these people like Neo who lives in the Matrix, and he's happy in the Matrix. Everything is great. Everything is going on well. He has no idea that outside the Matrix there's this real world out there that's totally different than what's inside the Matrix. Okay, so imagine that the world that Neo lives in, the Matrix, that's like a virtual computer. And the world outside the Matrix, the real world, that's the hardware. That's the actual physical box that you can touch. Okay? So what we're doing here, in essence, is we are taking a lot of these matrices, a lot of these small worlds where, say, a Windows operating system runs, and we're putting a lot of them on one box. And if you put this world on, it thinks it's running on an actual hardware computer. It thinks it's got a CD-ROM and a mouse, but in reality, it's being fooled to think that there is a mouse that it has and a CD-ROM. Okay, it's being fooled. And as a result, you can put a lot of these computers, a lot of these matrices on one hardware box. And now, where before you had this hardware box, this physical box, use 5% of it. Now when you put a lot of these virtual computers on it, now you're starting to use 80% of it. So you're not wasting your money, okay? So how is that applicable to the cloud? Well, when you use the cloud, say Microsoft Cloud, you use the cloud. Then your brother from California may use the cloud, okay? Then employees from CDI or Virginia International University may use the same cloud, right? So they're using the same computers to do their work, to do their processing. So you're all sharing these hardware physical boxes. They're all being shared, and they're being used very effectively at Microsoft data centers, somewhere out there, right? They're being used effectively. And that's only possible because Microsoft and Amazon and Google all use the concept of virtualization. They allow a lot of people to share their cloud because for each person, they make their own virtual computer, and it runs fine. Okay, but now everybody can share the hardware, and so Microsoft is not wasting its resources Meanwhile, a lot of people can use these computers. So here on the left, you see a lot of little computers. These are virtual computers, and they all run on one physical box that you can touch. Okay, that's what virtualization is. So what are some major virtualization companies? The biggest virtualization company that owns close to 80% of the market is VMware. VMware is a really hot company. It made one of the earliest stable virtualization software, and Microsoft is also a big company that has virtualization. They were late to the game, but they are starting to catch up. Citrix is another company that makes virtualization software. Okay, and those are the big three. And there's lots of small companies that also make virtualization software that allows you to run a lot of small virtual computers on a physical computer. So we talked about the servers, right? How, you know, these powerful computers, they run a lot of smaller virtual computers, and then when you connect your application, you don't know it, but in the back end, they all run, okay? And they make things possible for you in the cloud. Well, now, there's not just a concept of server virtualization, which is what I talked about earlier, but now there's also a concept of desktop virtualization. So what is desktop virtualization? So remember, you normally, without the cloud, you buy your, let's say, your own laptop, and when you start using it, you know, you move the mouse, you open up an application, you know, Microsoft Word, and you use it. All the thinking and processing happens on your own computer and on your laptop. Right? So if you disconnect from the internet, your processing is still going to happen on your laptop. Well, you want, you know, if you want to make some of your life easier, you can use the cloud to do that processing. So what you can do is you put your desktop's brain and memory in that data center out there, that Google data center or Microsoft data center that I talked about, and now all the processing happens there, and yet when you use your desktop, it's always available to you. You don't know that the thinking happens out there somewhere, okay, in the data center in California, okay? Well, all you see is your regular desktop, your Windows desktop, or Macintosh desktop, and you use it. You know, you click the buttons, you click the menus. With Windows 8, you can use touch gestures, and you don't feel anything. You use your computer just as before, but its thinking happens out there in the cloud. Okay, and the benefit is you can now connect to this virtual desktop from anywhere. Okay. Before I talked about connecting to Google Gmail, all these individual applications from anywhere. And that you can do from a browser, you know, you can use that one application. But what if you wanted to use all the applications that are normally on your desktop? Okay, you want to use them in the cloud. Well, if you use a virtual desktop, they all live in the cloud. Your desktop lives, the whole desktop lives in the cloud. And you can go, you know, on your laptop, I can connect to your virtual desktop. You can go on your phone and connect to your virtual desktop. You can go on your iPad and connect to your virtual desktop or Android device, okay? You can go to your friend's computer here, bottom right, and you can still connect to your virtual desktop. And when you connect to it, it's going to look exactly the same as when you left it off. So you can connect on your phone, disconnect, connect back at your friend's house, and your desktop is going to look exactly the same. So if you were working on your Word document, it's going to stay open in that exact same spot, no matter where you are in the world. If you are in Europe or in the US, it will always show you that open Word document with something that you just typed. Okay, so that's the benefit of a virtual desktop. You can connect to it from anywhere, and again, when it's in the cloud, or, you know, the brains and memories in the data center, it's being backed up. Data is copied by, say, Microsoft, okay, or Amazon, and you don't worry if you lose your desktop because you can always recover it. Those services allow you to recover a virtual desktop. So that's what a virtual desktop is. It's a full desktop with all of the applications that you have running in the cloud, not just one application as before I talked about. So, like I said, one of the most unique things that you can do with a virtual desktop is you can take an Apple iPad and you can run Windows on it. Okay, so if you see here, there's an Apple iPad and Windows running on it, and you can run Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, and you connect to your virtual desktop and you use it. Okay, you could touch your virtual desktop and you can open all the applications. And as soon as you don't want to use that anymore, and now you want to switch to your friend's computer to use a virtual desktop, you could. Okay, so that's why mobile devices really need this cloud concept. Okay, because with a mobile device, it's wireless. You walk around with it. Okay, you can go anywhere with it. You can move it around. When you move things around in a mobile device, you want to be able to connect to the same point. Okay, you don't want to, you don't want to close something in a mobile device, now go to a different device, your friend's computer, and not have access to your data. Okay, when you have the cloud, everything is stored out there on the Microsoft State computers in Seattle, and if you use this iPad or if you use your friend's computer, all the data is still there. So that's why when you have mobile devices, it's very important to have a concept of a cloud. And this slide is exactly it shows you here how you can have all these mobile devices, and they all still, they all want that cloud concept. Okay. So we talked about the cloud. We talked about virtualization, which is the underlying technology that allows the cloud to exist. Okay. So that a lot of people can share the cloud, and virtualization allows to do that. Okay, and of course the cloud is that big data center in the sky that you can always connect to, and all your data is always there. The cloud and virtualization are very hot fields right now in technology, and if you want to get a job in these fields, here's a couple of steps. So first, it's a good idea to have a degree from a college like Virginia International University. Okay. Now it's good to have a computer-specific degree, although that's not an absolute requirement to have a computer-specific degree. Then, when you start studying for courses in your degree, and when you start thinking about what job you want to get, there's two big paths in this field. One path is the developer or programmer path, and the other one is the infrastructure path. Okay, so the developer and programmer is somebody who creates these applications. Okay, like Microsoft Word or some cloud-based application like Google Apps. They create these applications, they program them, and these applications function. Okay, so for example, Microsoft has thousands of programmers or developers working for them, programming the cloud and applications that work in it. And so does Google. Okay, or there's another path, the infrastructure path, and that is somebody like myself, where I am not a developer or programmer, but I'm somebody who knows all of these applications and how they work together, and also knows the infrastructure, all these servers and all these data centers, and how to put them together, and how to combine all these applications, okay, how to install them and how to use them. So that's the infrastructure path, okay, where you're not programming, but you're designing already built infrastructure, and you're designing new infrastructure, and you're designing with applications that developers and programmers built already. Okay, so you have to choose a path, one of these paths, and both are equally hot, and both are pretty much, as far as salary, pay similar amounts of money. And then you should always get a certification from a major vendor like VMware or Microsoft. So VMware, for example, has VCP certification, and this is actually more applicable toward the infrastructure path where I'm at. So you should always get certification because that's looked highly in my industry. There's a VCP certification, VCP Cloud. There's a Cisco certifications like CCNA. Microsoft now has an MCICP Private Cloud certification. There's EMC and HTTP certifications. You want to get a few of these. Okay, you want to study for them and pass these tests and get them. Okay, that's a requirement if you want to get a job in these fields. Then you want to apply to a company like CDI. Okay, and what CDI does is we take technology from big companies like VMware, Cisco, or EMC, or Microsoft, and we resell this technology, and we integrate it together, and we give our customer a solution of these technologies, solution for a private cloud or a hybrid cloud. Okay, so we put these technologies together. So in essence, CDI acts as a consultant. Okay, we consult for these clients that come to us and say, look, we would like to, the client says we would like to have our own private cloud. How do you do it? So CDI knows exactly how to do that, and I will be one of the people who come and design this private cloud for a company. Okay, or you can also apply to big companies, VMware, Cisco, EMC, or Microsoft, and they all have positions in both developer programmer path or infrastructure path. Okay. I suggest that you start in the consulting field, okay, where you don't necessarily work administering things, administering technology or administering infrastructure. Administrator is basically somebody, your computer breaks and you're in your company, you're working in your company, you call a guy over, hey, come fix my computer, right? Whoever comes and fixes your computer, that's an administrator of these systems and administrator of these computers, right? That's one type of job. Another type of job is a consultant. That's what we are at CDI, where we're not permanent to one company. We go to different companies and we help them build this technology. So I suggest that you start as that, because you will get to see different companies, different technologies, and you will learn faster and you will advance in your career faster. Okay. Now you can also be an admin. You will learn some things also, but it generally is slower type of job, and you can always switch. But if you want to advance faster, consultant is a better field, in my opinion. Finally, if you want to get a job, you got to show passion for technology. I've interviewed quite a few people for different positions in my field, on my level and other levels, and the biggest thing that we all look for when we interview is, do you have the passion for technology? How do I look at that? Well, I always ask the question, so what kind of a computer do you have? Have you done any programming yourself? Have you programmed anything for yourself? Have you built your own computer? Okay. What kind of phone do you have? What do you do with it? Okay. Do you have any applications that you play with? Okay. Do you have any computers at home that you play with? Okay. If you tell me that you do these things and you know that you're passionate about taking things apart or building, a certain application that does something, then that's the kind of a person that's perfect for this field, and that's very desired. And the field right now is very hot. There's a lot of demand in the field. So if you show passion, you will be very much in demand on both the developer programmer side and infrastructure path. Okay. You can also join the startup, which in California is a thing to do, and there's benefits in that too. Okay, so that's how you can get a job in the cloud and virtualization field. So finally, what if you want to virtualize or build your own cloud on your own? What do? Well, you can download software from VMware. It's free, and for example, for 60 days, it's fully functional, and Microsoft has some also. You can download the software, install it yourself, and try it out for 60 days. Okay, fully functional software will do everything for you, and you can play with it and practice with it. Or you can ask somebody like CDI to build it for you. You know, we could build. We can build with VMware, Microsoft software, and Cisco software. We have a CDI Managed Services division, which can actually host your cloud. So remember how I was saying we have a private cloud for our employees. Well, we don't just have that. We also have a cloud for our customers, so that if a customer would like to use our cloud, we have data centers, other data centers, where customers connect to, and they can use our cloud. Okay, so the concept is very similar to the way Amazon and Google and Microsoft does it. It's on a smaller scale, but it's much more easily accessible to our customer, and the data is much closer, and we don't give you any hurdles of removing your data should you choose to move away from our cloud. So a lot of customers out there decide to use a smaller cloud like ours, okay? And we can also manage infrastructure for you. If you don't want to manage your servers, your own private cloud, we can come in and manage it for you. On the right here, we have some customers of ours that we service and build stuff for, like NBA, Merck, AIG, Delta Dental, some pretty famous names. Finally, if you want to try a cloud, I'm sure most of you already signed up for services like Google or Dropbox or Amazon or Gmail or Netflix. When you use those services, you are using a public cloud service already, okay? And that's how you can use clouds, and that's how virtualization is something that makes the clouds possible, okay? And that's how you can get a job in these hot fields, and something that I would recommend highly for the students on this webinar. And for the clients of CDI who are learning about this for the first time, or you're new to this, you know, you're welcome to come to us and use our cloud and help us and use our help in building a cloud for you. Now, thank you to Catherine Magalif, Janine Perry, and Leon Grassi for making this webinar possible. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can send me an email. Again, these slides and the video will be available on the VIU website and on CDI website. And here's my Twitter handle and CDI Twitter handle, and also the VIU Twitter handle and our website. Okay, and now I'm going to stop sharing the desktop and look at what questions came in through the chat, if any. Okay, so let me see if I see any questions here. For now, I don't see any. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the lines, unmute everybody. Okay, so actually I got a question right now from Sanjeev, and the question is, what are the best VMware products to manage small business? Okay, so if you have a small business, what virtualization software from VMware is best suited for that? Well, from VMware specifically, they have their vSphere suite, okay, and you can go to VMware and try it out, and they have a cheaper license for it for small businesses, okay, which is called the Essentials license. So you can actually try it out. You go to VMware, download this software, the VMware vSphere suite, and if you use the Essentials license, it allows you to manage a small number of servers, which is perfect for small business. Okay. Let's see. I don't see any question in chat for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute us all temporarily. There's going to be some noises, but I'm going to unmute, and you can ask a question verbally. Also, 1 second here. Okay, so I have just unmuted everybody. So please, if you have a question, let me know. Okay, so we do have two questions come in. So the first question is, how will new technologies like Google Glass impact the cloud? And that's a great question. That's a great question. So Google Glass, for those of you who don't know it, are glasses that Google made, and it's not out yet. It's not, you can't buy them yet, but you will be able to soon. Glasses that Google made, and when you put the glasses on, everything that you look at with your eyes can be recorded, and 24 hours, and you can actually pull a computer screen that you only see, you know, in the top right corner of your screen, but nobody else sees. Okay, that's what Google Glass is. These glasses. So how will that impact the cloud? Well, in order to use technologies like Google Glass, you have to have a connection to the cloud. Okay, because remember, it's made by Google. Google has its own cloud. So everything that you look at and everything that and the email that you access, all that will be coming from the Google Cloud over the internet, over the wireless networks, and into your glasses. Okay, and everything from that you record will go from your glasses over the wireless connection through the internet over to Google, and Google will store it all in their cloud. So how will it impact? Well, it will impact it because Google, when everybody starts using the Google Glasses, the amount of data Google will have to store will be tremendous. I mean, they store a tremendous amount of data now, but when people start using Google Glasses, they will need 10 times the amount of data centers that I showed you, right, and servers that I showed you all over the world, because the amount of data will be immense, because you generate all this data when you look everywhere around you, and you can record all that and immediately send it to the cloud. So that's the amount of data will have to double for Google, and that's how the cloud will be impacted. Okay, and next question was one more question from Sanjeev. I wanted to know which one is preferable, virtualization on a server or virtualization in a cloud. So that's a great question. So what's better, server virtualization or cloud virtualization? Well, if you want to take your data and store it yourself, okay, so you buy the hardware, you go to the store, you buy a physical server box, okay, you put virtualization software on it, and then you store all your information on it. That's a private cloud, okay? So if you want to store your data, right, if you don't trust your data over to Google or Amazon, if you're afraid that they will not let you remove the data, or somebody might hack your data, right, or, if you want to store it yourself, you physically want to have it in your building, then you want to use virtualization for servers, okay? But if you're okay with trusting your data to Google and Microsoft, and of course, if you use their cloud, Microsoft's or Google or some other cloud or CDI cloud, you will gain a lot of flexibility. You will be able to connect to the cloud from anywhere. Where with your own server, you can only, there's much more limits on what you can do. And when you store the data in the cloud, and when you virtualize in the cloud, the provider like Microsoft backs up your data and maintains it and everything. All you do is you pay a subscription fee. So there's benefits to having virtualization in the cloud, and there's benefits to having virtualization on a server. It just depends where you're comfortable having your data sit, okay, and how much convenience you want to have. Okay, I'm going to mute people temporarily again and answer one more question here. So the next question is, how safe are the public clouds? Can they lose data? So that's two questions actually. So first, how safe are they? can they be hacked? Can those hackers get your emails and get your financial information that you store in the cloud? Yes, they can. But it's the same as those hackers hacking your own private cloud. Okay. So if you maintain security, proper security, then you will not be hacked, and your data is safe and it's encrypted and nobody can touch it. When you use a public cloud, like say Google maintains security for you, so you have to put some trust into Google. And yes, there's been cases of some cases of hacking, but in general, a big company like Google or Amazon probably has more resources to protect you from being hacked, your data from being hacked. Okay, so in that sense, there's less chance of your data being hacked when it's stored in the public cloud. Okay. However, when you access your data from your computer, your login can be hacked. So in that sense, you do have, you have to have strong passwords and everything. So as far as security, really, I would say security, if you have good security in your private cloud, it'll be good. If you have good security, Amazon and Google have pretty good security in their clouds. So it's equal, okay? Public cloud and private cloud, the amount of security, how well you can secure your data, okay? As far as losing your data, okay, it's a bit different for that. What if, let's say, you put your data in Amazon, okay, and suddenly Amazon has an outage. Let's say the data center in Oklahoma went down. And that has happened. That had actually happened recently. A few of these cloud companies had their data centers go down. Okay, you'd think that they wouldn't, that everything is completely redundant all over the world, but they do have it go down occasionally. And then you can't access your data until they fix it. The good thing is that they have such tremendous resources that if there's a problem, they will fix the problem pretty quickly. Okay, so you will be up and running pretty quickly. Okay, and you will. Very, very, very small chance that you will lose your data because they copy it everywhere. They copy it across the world. So you'll never lose your data. You might lose access to it for maybe an hour until they fix it. And that's probably a half a year that you can access your data. Okay, and that's pretty good. Now, if you host your data in the private cloud yourself, then you got to put a lot of resources in trying to make sure that you copy, you protect it. And if your servers break or if Hurricane Sandy comes, you can get flooded and everything goes away. That's why if you have a private cloud yourself, you have to have another copy somewhere. And this is something that CDI, for example, does. We build you a second copy somewhere of your data in a different data center or in our data center for our own cloud. And that way your data is in two places. So if Hurricane Sandy floods one of these data centers, you still have a copy of your data. Okay, so in a sense, when you go to a cloud provider, usually they have bigger resources to protect your data. So I would say you have less chance of losing your data, okay? But as far as security, I would say security in public clouds versus private clouds is pretty much similar, okay? It all depends on how much you care on your own about security. Okay, I'm going to open up again, unmute everybody. See any more questions? We'll wait another few seconds to see if there's any more questions coming in. It could be a verbal question you can ask me on the line, or you could type it into chat. All right. I don't see any questions coming in chat, and I don't hear anybody asking more questions. So, going once.
Hello.
Going twice. Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Do you have a question?
Yeah, very good. I have a question. I am a SQL developer. I've heard this, people are moving all the databases that to to the cloud and all that. So can you give me some more information on that, please? I mean,
I'm sorry, you said
on
more
the cloud.
information on. I have a hard time hearing you because some background noise. Can you repeat the question again, please?
A concept about databases on the cloud itself. Hello?
You know what? Unfortunately, there's some noise on the line, so I have a hard time hearing you. Could you please type the question in the chat, and that way I'll be able to answer it better. So let me mute everybody for now, and can you please type a question in chat, and I will answer your question. I'm going to wait for you. I'm going to mute everybody again. So I'm waiting for you to type the question in chat, if you could please, because I had some trouble hearing you. Okay, so this is from Sanjeev. Again, thank you for asking these questions. They're very good. I wanted to know about moving the database on the cloud and performance issues. Okay, so if you move the databases to the cloud, what could be some performance issues? Well, you know, it depends what database you're moving and how you're doing it. Okay, if you say sign up, let's say with Amazon, and you sign up with their infrastructure as a service, IaaS service, which means that they will give you a virtual computer, right, in their cloud, and in that virtual computer you could put your own database. Well, performance-wise, the database will work fine because you will have to procure a computer that can handle your database. So when you sign up with, say, Amazon, they will ask you how much processing power do you want, how much memory do you want, and you select the appropriate amounts. So if you select the appropriate amount of memory, and of course the more you select, the more money you have to pay Amazon. But if you select the appropriate amounts of memory and processing power that's appropriate for your database, then it will run fine, okay, in the cloud, all right? And we at CGI can help you size the database properly for a virtual computer in the cloud, okay? But if you're talking about that, and that's using IaaS service, infrastructure as a service, where we kind of rent a virtual computer. There's another way of having a database in the cloud, and that is platform as a service, okay, or PaaS. And that is some cloud providers, for example, Amazon, will have their own databases built already, which you can use for whatever application that you want to build on top of this database. And so they already run in their cloud, and they're configured properly. All you do is you buy a portion of this database, and you pay a subscription fee, okay? And again, you specify how much processing power you want this piece of the database to have, okay? And they will configure it for you, will give it to you, and now you can build something on top of this database in the cloud. And that way, Amazon now takes care of your database, not you, and you only take care of the application. And again, the performance depends on you properly understanding of what you're going to run on top of the database. All right? I hope I answered your question. If not, please let me know. Okay, great. You said yes, so thank you, Sanjeev.